We've been talking podcasts for a while now. We've been talking about it over the course of the several weeks, the several brief weeks that I've known you, and that I've come to know a lot more about you and have so much respect for you and your name and in the space and everything. But for those that might not know who you are, why don't you let everybody know who you are?
Sure. My name's Alicia Mahoney. I'm with Business and Clinical Management Services, but more fondly known as BCMS. We are a compliance consulting company that specializes in just outpatient therapy. So we really stay in our lane. We're going to only consult for, PT, OT, speech, outpatient. And we've been doing this for a long time. We started as our own practice in '85, and then we converted to just compliance in 2000. And so that's all we do. And we're out there trying to help all those PTs out there and OTs out there who went to school to heal people, not to read regulation. And so we're here to help with that.
That's a phenomenal introduction. I would have totally flubbed that all up. That you put the emphasis to it and the knowledge behind it. What I found interesting was when I found out more about your business and what you do is that you guys did come from the clinical setting. And I've been so curious to ask you of, were you just sitting there one day and you needed compliance and you guys were fined or something and you're like, wait, I need to find somebody that can do this, that caused the impetus for that to happen? Or how did it come about?
It's a funny story. So it was in the late '90s. Our CEO, Mary, actually was consulting. So BCMS never went away, but she did have a job where she was the COO for Select Medical. And she was charged with compliance for Select Medical. And what had happened is her and some colleagues had started meeting quarterly in the late '90s to talk through business operations and compliance, because things were just starting to evolve then. HIPAA didn't exist back then. Like, there was different things that didn't even exist. Yeah. And so it started out as that. Mary kind of helped put together the operations manual for Select, and then decided to really do it on her own because she saw the need out there. There was just so many people who, there's no course in PT school that says how to run your own small business. There's no, and we're in the heaviest regulated industry, healthcare. So it's definitely one of those things that she was like, wait. And anybody who knows Mary, our president CEO, knows that she is a I dotter and T crosser to the nth degree. And she will turn over every stone to make sure that she understands exactly what's supposed to be done. But this was, regulations, OSHA, HIPAA, business operations, you name it. So that was, basically what got it started. And it was really small practice, just her running it for a while. And me and another person joined forces. And we've grown dramatically. We're in all 50 states now. We've got about over 1,200 active clients at the moment. That's not our lifetime, but that's just right now active. So, we're finally starting to see people and help them, instead of these poor people who are like, how do I even do this?
Right. So did it immediately take off, or did she keep the practice for a little while? And I've heard her name, by the way. So many of our clients that I've spoke to about you and your services and stuff, when I first mentioned BCMS, they're like, is it Mary? Is it Mary? And they all say it with a smile. So I know that she must be a very interesting person and a very lovely person, because everybody that as soon as they say her name first. And I'm like, no, I'm dealing with Alicia, and like, oh, we know Mary, but yeah, we love BCMS. And then I find out they're either already a client of yours, or I know they're soon to be, once they find out like the current temperature of things, which is, really what the biggest chord that I struck with you, or it was an alarm that went off in my head during our first meeting. And ironically enough, you and I got put together through one of our marketing people for our company to set up just guests for the podcast. I had no idea what I was walking into, and what, it went off as an alarm to me, and it really caused me to want to spread the word of that to all of our clients, for direct access marketers, but also just through the PT space in general, because what you do and what you specialize in has really come to a crux right now at this specific time for big reasons. So why don't you go into that a little bit?
Sure. So I will answer your question and go into what's going on right now. When we first started, it was people coming to us who were in trouble, and they were audited or fined or something. It is now transitioned to more of our clients come to us from a preventive or proactive measure. They would rather not come to us when they are in trouble. But to what you're addressing here, we are seeing a substantial amount of audits going on right now. Our best guess is that, the government gave away a lot of money the last 2 years, and they're looking to figure out how to get it back now. And so typically in a year, we'll see like 4 or 5 of our clients get something called a targeted probe audit, which is usually they're looking at certain specific CPT codes where you're maybe billing it more than your peers and they want to know why, like that kind of thing. But this is different. This is called a SMRC audit, which is a supplemental medical review contractor audit. And it's pretty sneaky. We've had 47 clients get audited so far this year, which is outrageous. We've never seen anything that high before. But this audit is one date of service in 2019. And we think that they've done this because 2020 and 21, we are under the, public crisis. And so because of this, the public health crisis, there's a lot of leeway for, oh, I was short staffed, or, oh, I had to furlough everyone, or, oh, I, was doing telehealth, but not totally sure, we were figuring it out. You can talk your way out of a lot from the past 2 years, but 2019, you can't. And so they are auditing.
To put that into perspective also, you're saying you've seen in your guys' client base, that many. So that's not even how many people that are a client of maybe one of the other few companies that do what you do, or don't have a company that does it for them at all. So there's probably a lot more of those audits. So
well, what's happening is it's opening up Pandora's box, because it's basically a money-making mechanism. They're looking at things that can ultimately fine you. And then if what you reply back to them with is disorganized or not really answering the question the best way possible, that can open up other, whether it's HIPAA or whether it's an OSHA audit, it can open up bigger things. And so one of the things that I told you when we first spoke was every single person who got PPP money or the Medicare money that magically appeared in your bank account, when you accepted those loans, you attested that you were in full compliance with OSHA. So the PPP money, you said you were in full compliance with OSHA, and the Medicare money, you said you were in full compliance with Medicare manual. That is a pretty broad statement, and it's got a lot of factors in it. And so when we found out that this was literally on the attestation form, we were trying to alert everybody we possibly could, because OSHA was auditing. They were walking in your practice and saying, I want to see that you've got PPE, personal protective, equipment, and that you've got a sharps container, and that you've got an eye wash station, and that you've got policies on how to protect your staff, infectious disease control, all of that. And it was the first time we'd really seen OSHA like aggressively auditing. And so but again, we were in the middle of a, public health crisis. And so it was one of those things where they're trying to make sure that the practices who were considered essential, that they were doing the things correctly so that they could stay open. And so that was the genesis behind kind of those, but it's definitely opened up a more aggressive auditing atmosphere. And so we're seeing a lot more people who had HIPAA breaches and things like that, because there were so many different moving parts during the last 2 years, that if you don't have things in place to help make sure that you do have those I's dotted and T's crossed, this is when it's starting, the ground's falling out from below a lot of people. And so,
yes.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of consultants out there in our industry. There's attorneys, and there is, definitely a couple out there who do a lot of education, but there's not a lot of PT owned, companies like us. And so we certainly have other consultants that we share clients with and whatnot. But this auditing world, this has been a new adventure lately. So
I'm sure it's crazy to me that they can do that. And that's probably, I agree with you that that's probably what the reasoning for it is. Government operates, everybody, when people speak about the government and they either praise the government or they complain about the government, you can't attribute that to one individual or even 50 individuals, because there's so many moving parts to it. And there's so many things that cause the mechanisms of government. And sometimes government gets it wrong. And I think that, this is one of those instances that you don't want to be on the end of that, because some of the fines, what are typical fines, like in numerical reasons, like monetary?
Okay, so we've got a couple things, like from this audit in particular, the SMRC audit, when they're looking at dates of services, what we believe is they're trying to see if the therapist who did the evaluation, if there was a second, like if there was somebody who wasn't enrolled, who was maybe an aide or PTA or whatnot. We think that they're looking at enrollment right there. If it was not the therapist who was doing the evaluation, if they had a second person or whatnot, they can recoup. And once they start to recoup, they can recoup for the entire plan of care. So not just that one date of service. If they see something incorrect, they can say the whole thing is incorrect. And so they can start to go in and extrapolate. Usually when they start to extrapolate, they go sometimes 3 years deep, and they will go in and look at everything. And so, we've seen clients who have had, God bless them, hundreds of thousands of dollars of recoupment. And so sometimes you can combat that, but it's going to take some major show of education and correction and things to that extent. There's other kind of fines and things like that. HIPAA is one in particular that we've seen, and we've done, we scream at the rooftops to our clients, have your signed business associate agreements, always. It's not hard to do. And if you are doing business with somebody who is going to see any of your patient information and they will not sign a business associate agreement, do not do business with them, period. Business associate agreements are a minimum of $30,000 a pop if you don't have one signed. 30,000 a pop. So if you had a billing company, a cleaning company, and then like BCMS was doing chart audits for you and you didn't have signed agreements with those entities, that's $30,000 a pop. That would do $90,000 that you would be paying back to HIPAA for a HIPAA violation.
I don't know too many I don't know too many individually owned clinics that could survive something like that, to be honest with you. It's with the margins and the constant reductions in the reimbursements to begin with, our industry is cash strapped. There's not readily $90,000 sitting in an operating account to be able to do something like that. What's funny is when we were first starting to talk about these things, I started thinking about some of the clients that are proposed to us, that get referred to us. And when, I'll get on very lengthy calls with them. Edric will get on very lengthy calls with them. And at the end of it, they'll flat out tell us, listen, I don't think that this is rocket science. And I think that I have this covered. So I think we're going to try to do it on our own. And listen, that's fine. That's everybody's ability to do that. And we usually, send them on with awesome blessings, and we hope you can work it out. Let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to actually give you some information for free too, because we know you're going to be struggling. And ironically enough, those people always come back about 3 months later and they're, hey, we do you still have that offer? And we're like, yeah, but Dr. David Hott, I was thinking about him because he's one of our clients to begin with. He's also one of your clients after meeting with him. But what he said to me when I first started speaking with him about your services, his first reaction was, I'm pretty sure we've got everything covered. But to his immediate credit, he also knows that because of ongoing, now there's new regulations, there's new constant different things changing, how government changes, that what if I don't have, yes, I feel confident that I have all of this, but what's the price that I pay if I don't have this covered? And that's why he made that decision. And I'm thankful that there's a lot of people out there that see, because the last thing I want to listen, the direct access marketers depends on your company, because if these clinics all of a sudden get hit with this many fines, this many, and they're out of business, they're not doing business with direct access marketers anymore as well. So there's a trickle down there. So this is something that we don't want to see happen. It's just the landscape of it's crazy, but I think as you continue to get more word out about it and word spreads, I know that PTs, there's so many focus groups and stuff that they're members of, and little different individual relationships that they have with different vendors and stuff, that word gets around pretty quick. So I'm sure your calendar is going to start filling up rapidly.
Well, it's funny. I've been in this exact role for the last 8 years, and I would say maybe one person that I've ever talked to had most things in place. And that person was a rehab agency and came from a hospital setting, and they were a compliance officer at the hospital. So other than that, and it's no one's fault. I say it all the time. You went to school to heal people, not to read regulation.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know. And the reality is unfortunately putting your head in the sand. The government does not care if you don't know. They don't take that as an excuse. And so we're out there trying to do as much goodwill. We've got a compliance checklist, like an audit tool that we, circulate out into the world, because at least if you're not going to use us, at least have some sort of idea of what you should have in place, And so usually kind of like your, leads and whatnot, most people see our services as a great insurance policy, if nothing else. We really are a risk mitigation, not to mention we're, part of the law. Like the stuff that we're helping you put in place is,
Sure.
What you've signed off, your PT license, you said you would do the following when you were enrolled. And so we're making sure that that's all taken care of. But it's definitely one of those things where it's again, like I said, not, if you don't know it, you don't know it. And so that's where we come in. So,
they're the pieces that you do not want to fall through the cracks. And that's where you guys plug those holes where the cracks fall through. How do you see this all playing? Do you think that those audits, the spike in those audits is going to continue?
I think that they're getting more and more savvy in kind of their way of recouping. I feel really bad for our industry. It sometimes feels like we're being attacked, and here we are. Our motto is to heal people without pharmaceuticals. We're looking to try to help you. If you've got a hurt shoulder, we're not looking for you to get a bunch of cortisone injections. We're looking to help you, do therapy until your rotator cuff feels better, And so it's hard sometimes from a standpoint that we watch all of these other, pharmaceutical companies and, physicians and, surgeons and all these things get additional reimbursements, and we keep getting cut. So where BCMS comes in is we're trying to help you protect that investment. And
do you think it's the lobbying? Do you think it's the lack of lobbying for the PTs?
I think that is a real thing. That was Mary was very active in governmental affairs back in the 90s. She was on the ground with direct access. She was one of the people who helped get that into place when it very first came out. I do feel like a lot of our younger PTs are not as active in like the APTA or governmental affairs. I don't know that there hasn't been enough. I don't know. Like I feel like we, as a industry, need to be better at that. But it definitely, we're trying. That's certainly a message that BCMS puts out. Anytime like a proposed rules come out for, the Medicare fee schedule, we're quick to be like, combat this, write to your congressman, here's a letter, here's to this, because, it was looking like it was going to be a way bigger cut. Thank God it was only 3% for us, but like, here we are, we're screaming at the top of the roofs in 2023 for PTAs to have their general supervision, which means that they can be virtual. That means you can supervise somebody on FaceTime. Right now, they're under the public emergency, health emergency, so they have that ability to have a PTA be supervised that way. But in 2023, if it does not get put into the new rules, it goes back to general supervision, or sorry, direct supervision, which means a PT has to be on site. And whenever you're trying to schedule, a lot of times that can hinder your ability and whatnot. So those are the kind of things that we are very much encouraging our clients and anybody who's out there in our industry to have a voice, because we need these things.
I think a lot of the times when people think of lobbying, if they think of it at all, and if they realize it's a game, and it's pay to play, and a lot of the reality of it is in one way, shape, or form, it's paying to play. Whether you're paying a lobbyist to sit there and constantly beat down the doors of the lawmakers, or if it's through other nefarious means that are illegal, it happens in every industry. And I think that I can't imagine going up against pharmaceutical lobby, that the money that they have. But you don't have to go about it that way. You can go about it from the perspective exactly what you just said. Anytime that those proposals come across, and I know that I'm sure that everybody gets tired of looking at their emails and all of the stuff that's constantly in there about your industry. But I know that everybody gets some information sent to them constantly through these types of vital organizations like your guys's. Even our company, Edric and Direct Access Marketers, we share info like that when it comes down the pipeline. Hey, listen, send this to your senator, send this to your local, whoever it is to send to. Say, no, we don't want this. Actually, Dr. Hott was a member of, I believe that he's some sort of, he goes and he educates younger PTs at the colleges in South Carolina down here. And he came across the study, and I'll have to find that, and I'll send it to you when I can find it. But it was a study that a major university did about what the actual reductions in healthcare would be if physical therapists were the first people that people saw. And it was unbelievable. And it was like, it was a big number. I mean, I think he said it was like in the 35% mark in savings. Wow. So your mind has to wonder, like, why is this industry constantly under attack like that? And, I know that we're constantly looking for ways to try to combat that, constantly trying to find ways to diversify incomes and stuff that streams for the physical therapist. But, it's an ongoing battle. But I think right now, like what you're doing, at least you're fighting on the front lines of you're staving off the enemy.
Yeah. I always tell people, I know that spending money with BCMS is your least favorite because it's compliance. Right. I mean, I have a client who calls me the fun sponge because she'll be like, hey, can I do X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, no. And so, we understand it's not the fun thing. It's much more fun to, spend money on marketing and entertaining and all of that stuff. But, we're definitely, we try to remind people it's like insurance. We're just here to protect you.
And it's awesome. It's such an invaluable service, and I'm happy to be involved with you guys now. So you mentioned the checklist. So right now you're doing a free promotion with it as well, right? The complimentary, that you'll provide that for the people. And then if they want to speak to you more about that, then that's a blessing as well. How can people reach you?
Oh, you can reach me a couple different ways. If you're on Facebook, Alicia Nevins Mahoney, I'm usually very easy to find in a PT-based Facebook group. I'm tagged pretty often in there. So Facebook, you can absolutely email me. Our website is bcmscomp.com. My calendar is posted everywhere. So you can always get on my calendar. My phone number is, the website has a phone number that rings directly to me. So it's pretty easy to find me. Sometimes I have to go into hiding.
Yeah, so I recommend everybody strongly, all of our clients, any client that, there's lots of cons out there in every industry. And so you're wary when you hear things, but this is not one of them. And the references that you have are impeccable. I can't get on the phone with a PT that doesn't know who you guys are. It's like, so everybody knows. So that's a great thing to hear to begin with. But no, you guys are doing a great service to everybody. And I thoroughly enjoy talking to you. I don't want to keep a lot of your time. You know, I could do this podcast for hours with you. And, you know, mate, let's do another one soon for sure. You know, we can pick any subject matter, anything PT related. You know, I love talking about it, business on the business side, on any of it. So yeah, I look forward to doing lots of good stuff. And I'll let you know as soon as we have this posted up and running. And thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a great one.
Bye. Have a blessed day.
Bye, Andy. Thank you.